so many twists and turns
Yeah.
and crazy going on behind the scenes of UFC 300. It's unbelievable.
I bet.
Everything that everybody thinks about UFC 300 right now literally could all change tomorrow. Every fight that's on the card already could be a main event on either a fight night or a pay-per-view.
Right.
So we have one more slot to fill, mid-level, and then we have the main event. We have
honest,
two other fights.
You know right now what the main event's going to be. Be honest.
No.
Are we actually satisfied with UFC 300? Today, we're going to take a look at the card and see if it actually stacked up to the expectations that Dana White gave us. Stick around to hear my thoughts. I'm Wyatt, and this is Fight Society. We're going to start with the prelims and work our way up the card just to see how satisfied we are with UFC 300 compared to the unrealistic expectations that Dana White gave us. So first we have Deiveson Figueiredo, former flyweight champ, against former bantamweight champ Cody Garbrandt. Now, this in itself is insane to see as an early prelim fight. On any other card, this is a main card fight, maybe a feature bout on a pay-per-view, maybe a fight night main event. And this off rip just by itself, wow, crazy first fight of the night. But when you take a look at what they did here from a strategic standpoint in structuring this card, you're going to see that it's not so crazy. So here we have right after that. So just right there, first two early prelim fights, Figueiredo Garbrandt and then Bobby Green and Jim Miller. When you look at it just like this, you're like, holy shit, where are they going with this card? And then you realize that this is what they did to us, all right? Jéssica Andrade and Marina Rodriguez. Now, they did this right here to make us watch the card from start to finish. That is why they gave us these two insane early prelim fights so that they could hit us with this fight that nobody gives a fuck about. And then they go back to a fight that we actually care about, which is another pay-per-view main card caliber fight on the early prelims, Jalin Turner and Renato Moicano. Two ranked lightweights, so two ranked fighters in the UFC's arguably premier division. Then after that, you go to the regular prelims, and they give us Sodiq Yussuf and Diego Lopes. Now, Diego Lopes is a very loved fan favorite prospect, and he's getting his first ranked matchup, but it does not deserve to be ahead or above Jalin Turner, Renato Moicano, or Deiveson Figueiredo, Cody Garbrandt on the biggest card of all time it's supposed to be. But so they bring you back in here and they sandwich that fight and they put Holm, Kayla Harrison, which is a fight that I'm interested in, but the casual fan is genuinely not going to give a fuck about, to be honest. And then they do Calvin Kattar, Aljamain Sterling. So if you start looking at this card from a zoomed out, bigger picture, you're seeing that they are structuring it in a way that makes you watch the entire card and makes you stick around for fights that you probably wouldn't care about. This is what they did with two big fights to start the card, and then a fight nobody cares about, and then another fight here that most people want to see, and then a fight that I'm kind of indifferent about, but it'll be a good fight, and then a fight that most people don't care about, followed up by another great fight. So they're taking the fights that we're less interested in and sandwiching them in between the fights we actually care about to keep us engaged for the whole card. If they were to do Holm, Kayla Harrison to start the card, and then Andrade Rodriguez, and then Yussuf and Lopes, people would just tune in at the third or fourth fight, and that's not what they want with this card. They want high viewership through the whole card from start to finish. And then on the prelims, this is where it gets a little dicey for me. Light heavyweight division, John Jones's former division, one of the premier divisions in the sport. You have number 2, Jiří Procházka, and number 5, Aleksandar Rakić on the prelims, which is just a disgrace when you look and see that Bo Nickal's on the main card. And I did a video last week about how undeserving this spot is for Bo Nickal. especially with minus 1350 odds. It's not even a competitive fight. From a competitive standpoint, it does not deserve to be on a main card at all. And Bo Nickal's 5-0 with no ranked wins. So he doesn't deserve a main card slot on any pay-per-view, let alone UFC 300. But what they're really trying to do here is set him up for the future so that they can say, wow, he dominated this super mid opponent in Cody Brundage on the main card of this monumental pay-per-view. And they'll always call back to that as they push Bo Nickal closer to title shots. Then you have Arman Tsarukyan and Charles Oliveira, huge fight. That's awesome. And it's the second fight of the main card. Super pumped about that. And then BMF fight, which is pointless at this point, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway. If they would have just waited a little bit to let UFC 298 play out, they should have done Gaethje versus Islam and Max Holloway versus Topuria. But I think that they were expecting Volk to beat Topuria and they didn't want to do Holloway versus Volk 4. And then same thing, the women's championship fight. It's going to be a fun fight. But the most fans, the casual fans that are tuning in for this big UFC event are not going to be that thrilled about. So they sandwich that in between Alex Pereira and Jamahal Hill in the main event and the BMF fight between Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway. So they're making you stick around through fights that you don't care about. And listen, I understand that this is an amazing card. I understand that if this was anything but UFC 300 and it didn't have all of the crazy expectations that the fans have had and that Dana White gave us, that this would be an amazing card. Everybody would be freaking out about how good this card is. But it's UFC 300. And Dana said it was going to be the best night of fights ever. And when you see the fact that they sandwich these other fights in between the big fights that people really want to see, it makes you realize that they weren't able to pull off the card that they promised. And so they structured it in a way that makes it seem better than it is, or makes it seem like they got closer to their expectations when they really should have done better for this card. They should have put Conor in the main event. That's what I think. From top to bottom, this is an insane pay-per-view, and I'm satisfied with it when I just look at it by itself. But when I take in Dana White's promises about this being the biggest night of fights ever, the craziest card he's ever put together, no, I'm not satisfied. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are you satisfied with UFC 300? If you like this video and you want more content just like this, click that subscribe button down below. If you want more content from me, go check out my weekly comedy podcast, the Hissyfit podcast, and go check out my personal channel, Wyatt's World. Go watch this suggested video, and I'll see you next time.